Hello everybody and welcome to the 15th Developer's Diary for this Castlevania Symphony of the Night Megadrive project. In the previous video I showed you an updated version of level 1 of the game, the entrance, but at the same time I said that versions were still using old code, which made creating levels very difficult, as well as having various bugs and inefficiencies in it. Thankfully, this version of level 2 is using the latest code, so that includes all the improvements I've made over the past few weeks, and while most of them won't be visible to people just watching or even playing the game, it just makes it so much easier for me as the creator to prototype new levels, add new enemies, plus there are various bugs and games crashes that don't happen anymore, but there will be some things which will be visible, so I'll explain them to you in this video today. Oh, and by the way, the music you're hearing throughout this episode is the Megadrive version of the music for the stage, which is done by one of our musicians, Inglebard. Now, Inglebard has his own retro channel, which you can go to, and as well as having retro-related videos, he also has tutorials on how to make your own music. So for those of you who are looking for a new hobby to take up in 2023, then I will link to those right now. Okay, you can already see the first thing that I want to talk about in action, and that is the enemy AI. After doing the AI for a few different enemies now, including a couple of bosses, I've kind of settled into a routine or a template, which is where they often have an AI counter which dictates how often they react to Alucard's behavior and make decisions. Right now I think it's at every 2 seconds, which I think is a bit slow, so I probably need to improve that, but every 2 seconds or so at the moment they'll react to Alucard's movements and what the player is doing, and if he's close then they'll go into attack mode and they'll try to attack, and if he's far away they'll just go into this passive mode where they guard a certain area. And I can change all these quite easily, so in the future I'm definitely going to make lots of changes to these, but for now they're pretty simple, but I think they do the job. Okay, so with that close range sword enemy out of the way, let's look at a ranged attacker, and we've got this skeleton guy who's going to throw some bones at us. And again, if we keep our distance, then we're too far away, he won't actually attack, he's just in this passive mode where he's guarding his little platform there. But as soon as we get within a certain distance, that's when he starts throwing. Now right now I've only got one trajectory of how the bones go, so in the future I might change it so if he's further away he kind of puts more strength into the throw, so it goes further. If he's closer he can do a shorter throw, and in the original he also throws 2 or 3 bones at once, which is very easy to do. And you can see now I'm finally getting hit by it if I move into range and I have a knockback, and if you take a look at the life bar on the top left hand side of the screen you'll see that I lose a bit of life too. Now let's get rid of this sword guy because we want to concentrate on the bone throwing guy right now. And as I move back and forth you can see the AI reacting to what direction I'm facing, and he'll throw in different directions, turn in different directions, and again that's on a 2-second delay. But if I quickly move back and forth you can see that I can kind of trick him and kind of make it look a little bit buggy, where he's kind of facing one way and throws but the bones kind of ends up the other way. So that's a little something I need to fix, but apart from that I think he's working quite well. I just need to add some more, maybe more bones, make him a bit more aggressive. I think I'm going to make him so he stays on the platform, not like the PlayStation 1 where he kind of gets overexcited and jumps down, because he has got the high ground after all, and you want to keep the high ground, everyone knows that. So yeah, I'll keep him as he is I think. As for the red skeleton guy, you'll see him appear later in the level, but for now let's go to the next section. For those who watched one of my previous videos on the Alchemy Lab level on how to design it, you'd know that I kept everything as one single level. I didn't have this transition here, and that was fine, but it was creating some issues with how the tiles are displayed. Not a hardware problem, more of an artistic problem, where the tiles didn't quite line up with the collision code if I did it that way. So for now I've separated them again. I might put them together again in the future, but I don't think it's very important. So, and the next we have this same guy as we had before, so I'm just going to kill him and rush by him. Now none of the enemy placement is final here, this is just an early prototype, and I'll probably have like a bone thrower behind him and maybe another sword guy after this, but if we jump up to the next section we'll see another 2 sword guys as well. Thankfully, using my new level code, just placing enemies and repositioning them is so much less hassle than before, so it's not going to take up as much time, so I can experiment a bit. Okay, with those 2 guys out of the way, let's go and meet my personal favourite enemy from the Alchemy Lab section, and that is the green axe thrower. The code is very similar to the previous enemies, so you have to get within a certain distance to trigger from his passive behavior to attacking behavior, and the actual whether he throws high or low is judged by a randomizer, so sometimes he'll throw high and sometimes he'll throw low. Now a little adjustment I made to the code here is to change the Alucard hitbox, so before, even if you duck you will get hits, but as you can see now, if you duck you miss it, if you stay standing you'll get hit in the face, and of course for the lower one you have to jump over it. But in the original you were able to hit the axes to get them out of the way, and it's actually necessary in some tight situations, so I've added that here where you can actually destroy the axes too, as well as trying to avoid them. So after the mermen in the first one and the bone throw, this is I think the third projectile enemy I've done, and it gets a bit easier with each time. Each one has its own challenges. So the merman, he kind of just did the fireball, and you can see here similar to the bone thrower, if I jump over and change direction, sometimes he doesn't react in time and he'll throw in the wrong direction. It's a bit janky, but if I stay down here then he's not triggering, so I'm too low, so he's not going to attack, he's going to remain passive, and only when I go in the right vertical position so he can actually see me, I'm within his line of sight, that's when he'll finally attack. So it's just you have to be within a certain distance of him, and here I've done a slight mistake with the hit collision, the level collision, so that's not an actual bug in the code, I suppose it's just a little mistake that I did. And as we go into this tight section, being able to actually hit the axe and destroy it is very important, because you're not going to be able to jump out the way, or you can maybe duck if he does a low one. But another little update to the code I did is before, when you get hit you could actually get hit into the scenery, but now you get knocked against it instead, you don't go through the scenery anymore. And listed with the other enemies, I still need to do the proper death animations and death sounds. At the moment the deaths, any kind of sound effects is clashing a bit of the music, so I need to work on that and find out where the problem is. But for now let's go to the next section. Long-term viewers of the channel will already have seen this section in a previous video just that I've prototyped, and I've kept it pretty much the same here. So the platforming challenge here is of course the red skeleton. He's on a very narrow platform, so you have to jump and hit him and land at the same time, and of course he comes back to life, so you can't hang about on the platform for too long. At the moment I think he lays in death for a bit too long, so I can make that a bit quicker, give it a bit more of a challenge. I'm making it look quite easy here because I've done it lots of times, but it's actually a little bit of a challenge, so especially in later levels maybe I'll have it over some kind of a pit where you can fall in, you'll die, so it makes it extra difficult, maybe throwing a few Medusa heads as well if you want to really up the difficulty. And so I think that's a little neat little section, but for now let's go on to the next section now. The Alchemy Lab corridor you're seeing now is a section I haven't shown on the channel before. It's a newly put together one, and I mentioned in the first video how I didn't have the collision for the stairs in place, so it's a bit awkward climbing up and down, and you can imagine why I really wanted to get that right in this section, because it's very narrow and navigating will be very difficult if a level collision with not only the 40 gravity degree angles, but this has like a more gentle slope too. If these weren't working, it'd be very difficult to walk up and down, so that's why I definitely want to get it fixed there. And when I say fixed, it's still not 100%. It looks sometimes like Alucard's floating a bit above the floor, so I still need to do a lot of work, especially to get to the point where I feel confident that I can put it into a tutorial and have other people learn from it, because I think it's still a bit too buggy at the moment. Sometimes it's difficult to jump when you're on a float, it doesn't register. When you're on a slope, it doesn't register, which obviously would be very frustrating for levels such as the Royal Chapel with that big staircase where you have to avoid enemy projectiles. But so I still need to do a lot of work on that, and once the work's done I'll do a nice tutorial on it. Because you can see in that section here there's still some bugginess in it, and I don't know why that happens, so I need to do a lot more work. But once the work is finished, I'm looking forward to doing a tutorial on it for everyone, so people are interested, they can learn and they can finally make their own games with some good level collision. The bloody zombie enemy you're seeing here is, you've seen him in other videos before, his death animation is as epic as always, but this time I've programmed a bit more nuance into his AI. He can actually attack and damage you, and he has this you can obviously, the way he swings his sword up is a bit slow, so you have time to avoid it, but I might do it so he goes a bit faster when he actually spots Alucard, as he does in the original game, and give him, you know, another hit point or two, so he's a bit more difficult to kill. But you see I'm running pretty low on life here, so let me just show you the death sequence. So if I get hit again, then I'm going to die, and the game's simply going to reset to the beginning at the moment. But of course in the final game I have it so you lose a life and you maybe start the beginning or the level or the section at the beginning instead. Instead of going through the whole level again, let's start off from where we left off last time, kill that final enemy, get a bit of revenge, and then we'll move into the final section of the demo. Now this room is where I start to get a bit creative with the level layout, because it's going to change a bit from the original game, and you can probably tell from my voice by now that I've got a bit of a cold. I've actually had a fever since last week. It was pretty bad. I was like in bed for 2 days, just not sleeping very well and sweating and having lots of weird dreams, as you do when you have a fever, and I'm just recovering now. So I'd hoped to put the another enemy, the guy who rotates along the floors and drops poison on the floor, but I didn't have time to put him in. At the moment you can see the enemies just having a little party. They're all there together in weird pallets, but they haven't got any AI in them. They're just following, not even the camera, they're following just a screen, staying in the same position as before. But in the future I have more axemen here, the guy who spits poison, and maybe some bone throwers too. I've also added some parallax scrolling into this section that didn't have it before, where you have these windows. Before it was just like a flat single scrolling layer, but I've changed it now so you do have a nice scrolling layer here, and again Yuri's 16 tile tools come in very handy here just to optimize the colors. Now the background itself is something I've put together, and it's not great looking, so Pyron's going to do another version of that for us. And in fact all the graphics you're seeing here, the foregrounds and so on, although they are by Pyron, and he's actually given me updated ones that use the colors in even better ways. So next time you see it, hopefully I'll get a chance to put the new graphics into the game so they look even better than they do now. As well as supplying new graphics for the entrance and alchemy levels of the game, Pyron's also been hard at work creating the graphics and tile sets for the next level of the game, which will be the marble gallery. So anyone who's interested in getting early sneak previews of those graphics and all the other projects he's working on, I'll leave a link to his social media, Twitter page and so on in this video description. Just before Christmas I'll put out a little video where I just give a very quick preview on the work we've done on the marble gallery so far, as well as providing a couple of ROMs as a kind of Christmas present for everyone so you can play with over the holidays. I'm trying to tweak things up as much as I can, but obviously it's still going to be quite buggy, but I hope you have fun with it anyway. Okay, so I think that just about wraps things up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in this kind of content, then please subscribe to the channel.
I'm interested in this.
And if you want to support the channel further, I have a Patreon account.
You won't go unrewarded.
And until next time,
farewell.